Well, thank you so much, Dale, and to the BCEDA for this wonderful opportunity to kind of share with you quite an exciting program in a very tumultuous year we had back in 2020. And it's really our program called Surrey Makes PPE, which I'm going to walk you through and kind of also share some of our learnings, which the provincial government and the federal government have actually come to us looking for. So a lot of this information we've shared with senior levels of government in the hopes of sharing some of our lessons learned to build a better Canada and a better way forward in terms of ensuring that we are prepared for the next pandemic. So if I kind of rewind the tape, and I think a lot of the previous speakers have talked, 2020 has definitely changed the landscape for economic development, and certainly in Surrey, we saw a lot of the impact of COVID in our community. But on March 16th, when the provincial state of the emergency was declared, my team in economic development, which I manage, we were all seconded into our emergency operations center. And I was in particular put in charge of leading our advanced planning function. And at that time, we were also hearing calls from the Prime Minister rallying industry to support production of essential equipment and supplies to combat COVID-19. And Surrey businesses took that very seriously. The city of Surrey took that very seriously. And one of the things that we wanted to do was, as a municipality, was identify sources of PPE that we could buy around the world, but also see how we could kind of foster the manufacturing of PPE domestically in case of supply chain shocks and shortages. And indeed, the supply chain shocks and shortages were quick to come. By April, almost no one was able to get their hands on an N95 respirator. No one was able to get their hands on gowns. Hand sanitizers were in short supply. And we started seeing a lot of geopolitical movements around the world where if you weren't a friend of the United States, China, or one of these big powers, you were left out. And Canada was certainly within that realm. And so with that, we actually went through a concert effort to really support our local businesses into the retooling and getting into this industry. Within the first week of the pandemic, we had already contacted around 150 companies in Surrey to kind of understand what their production capabilities are. And this went beyond analyzing NAICS codes. This went into understanding who had certain chemical processes, who was working with plastic materials, who was in the textile industry, and who had the skill sets that would be required to produce PPE equipment. And we were very lucky to have a lot of entrepreneurs who were interested, but also didn't understand the market opportunity, because a lot of people were thinking that this might just be another SARS back in 2002, and this pandemic might be going away in the next couple of months. One of the things that we actually provided to our businesses quite immediately was the fact that we provided them with information and market intelligence, providing them with market projections, showing them the market potential for PPE production, not just in Surrey, not just in BC, but around North America, and telling them that, probably within a year of establishing and retooling, they could probably have a payback of their initial investment. To do that, we actually created a number of tools, leveraging on a lot of city resources that we already had invested in, such as our web and surveying tools, such as our understanding and leveraging a lot of data and analytics tools that we use on a day-to-day basis in economic development, and turning them into more sales-related functions to support our businesses. By April 26th, so just shy over a month of the pandemic started, we actually created Surrey Makes PPE Marketplace at surreymakesppe.ca, where the public and senior levels of government could go on and actually buy PPE straight from factory at factory prices. We had around 30 companies listed on this platform with products ranging from gowns, sanitizers, to masks. The only thing that we don't produce right now in Surrey in the PPE realm are plastic booties and boots. So everything, even N95s, are now produced in Surrey. And as a matter of fact, the only N95 production facility in British Columbia was established through the Surrey Makes PPE program. We also supported a lot of rural and remote communities, not just in British Columbia, but across Canada. Cities that did not have the purchasing power of major municipalities across Canada found it difficult to get into supply chains to get N95 respirators, get surgical gowns for their fire departments and whatnot. We actually created a national group buy campaign, which was participated by a number of BC municipalities, as well as municipalities all the way out to Newfoundland, where they were able to kind of leverage local production and secure pricing that was competitive to a lot of the major cities and what they were buying for with the major manufacturers. And when you kind of look at it, the economic impact was quite substantial through the participation of the companies. As I mentioned, we produced a lot of PPE, and we continue to produce a lot of PPE. And to this date, we've actually generated over $12 million worth of revenue and sales for our local manufacturers, a significant increase in revenue despite very challenging times throughout the entire economy. But we saw economic growth in Surrey. Throughout the program, we had 25 companies that ultimately are continuing to proceed with this program. We have seen over $5 million in private capital investments and property improvements into this program. There was not one single cent, not one single dime of government money that was spent on incentivizing or supporting these companies, unlike Ontario and Quebec. We spent nothing, and we got significant economic returns on this. Over 145 jobs were attracted, retained, or created as a result of this program. And we've also expanded the lease of industrial space to facilitate the production of a lot of this kind of PPE equipment within our community. So when we kind of looked at this, we didn't want to just kind of do this and turn it into a Surrey success story. We want this to be a Canadian success story. And so what we did was we actually outlined a lot of the critical success factors in a review of the program. And these are some of the things that we found that were successes that helped us enable us to move this program forward at such great speed and success. So the first one was really startup speed. You know, while I know that a lot of cities were still struggling to get their handle on what COVID-19 was, we looked at the data and we actually immediately kind of pinpointed the activities that would impact our economy. We looked at data and market insights and turned our engine for doing a lot of our economic analysis and turned it into market analysis so that a lot of our small and medium enterprises could leverage the expertise of our analytics to support them to take these business cases to the bank and get financing from private sector financiers. In a matter of sense, dollar was gold. Dollar was the incentive. Data was the incentive for these businesses. We also targeted existing businesses with scalability and capabilities. We didn't just look at, whether or not they were in a particular sector. We looked at capabilities and transferable skills for retooling. And this was done through concerted efforts over multiple years of our BRE programs and understanding very specific challenges that they had and also capabilities that they had and being able to call on those relationships. One of the things that a lot of our companies, especially those who are trying to manufacture N95s and gowns, were facing was regulatory hurdles. Up to September of 2020, Canada did not have its own N95 certification. We relied on the NAOSH standard developed by the US CDC. And when the pandemic hit and all these companies automatically wanted to produce N95s, the United States told Canadian companies that they were not eligible and they were testing because they were not American. So we actually helped Health Canada and our companies understand what it would take to get certification in these spaces. And as I mentioned, Eternity Medical is the first in Canada to obtain Health Canada certification and also the new CSA standard for N95s in Canada, which is now the gold standard that all future Canadian companies looking to make N95s will need to abide by, including 3M. We also helped companies access market. As I mentioned, we actually helped facilitate group buy opportunities. We helped companies and governments access our companies through our online portal. And I'm very pleased to say that a number of provincial governments across the country actually submitted requests for quotes and actually bought from our suppliers through the portal. We also sent out sample boxes to a lot of potential buyers through our Emergency Operations Center network, and that also facilitated sales. But most importantly, City of Surrey ended up being at times, one of the first movers and first customers for our companies. And our company certainly appreciated it. And so, with that, moving forward, we have actually gone to the province of British Columbia to apply for a $400,000 supply chain grant to see how we can actually take a lot of these learnings and scale it up. And we already have the participation of the Township of Langley and the City of Richmond, as well as the support of the BC Tech Association to help us kind of take our learnings and scale it out to the rest of the province. So thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to kind of working collaboratively with our BC counterparts moving forward as well. Thank you so much.